If you want to be more productive, pay close attention. Today is perhaps the most powerful computing environments, and there's a lot of distractions. But today I'm going to teach you about how you can be more productive with artificial intelligence. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. So, you see all the news and everything about how horrible the economy is and how everything's falling apart. And my kid was even worried about it. And he said to me, hey, it sounds like the world's going to crap. He was having some bad grades. And he said, look, the world's going to crap. I'm not worried about my grades. And I said, look, how do you know the world's going to crap? See, here at Inside Strategic Relations, we're all about thinking. We're all about getting the facts, accurate thinking, as Napoleon Hill called it, understanding what the reality of a situation instead of how we would desire it to be or how we perceive it to be. Understanding that everybody has inherited biases, they have environmental conditions. How do you know if the world is good or bad? It's a fundamental question. So you could be frustrated because your work isn't that great, but compared to other people's work, it's really good. Or your job is not great because it's not great no matter who was in that position. The systematic approach to the way your organization does things is killing you. It's wearing you out. It's making you tired. It's making you frustrated. And you're looking for a way to be more productive each day because it feels like compulsion. So before you get into this and become more productive in an environment that's not good for you or doing things that doesn't make you happy, I do want you to get a copy of my book, What You Want and How to Get It, because that's going to focus on figuring out what you want. But I'm going to assume you know what you want and that being more productive in what you do, meaning spending fewer hours and getting better results, putting in less resources and getting more resources out, that being productive where you are today will personally benefit you, your family, your children, those people in your immediate community. Okay? So if you don't know what you want, being more productive will just get you more of what you've got. And if you don't want that, then it's a horrible cycle. So let's talk specifically about artificial intelligence, because everybody's talking about that today. And I've gone out to ChatGPT. I've gone out to Google Lambda. I've gone out to the different platforms and I've done some tests, and we're going to talk about the results of those tests. One thing I found that's critically important is that when you're working with artificial intelligence, it's not as smart as it seems. So when you get a response back that's written in the tone and the dialogue of a human, so it's a natural language response, it triggers a cognitive bias where you're more likely to think the information is accurate and correct, just as we would any other authority. So the computer system is doing all these powerful machine learning things, natural language processing, 1,000 different things. In our minds, we perceive that therefore the answer is going to be correct. I want to tell you up front, if you ask bad questions, you're going to get bad answers. If you don't understand that there's a pattern of response, you may believe the response because it's written believably, but it's not expert advice. It's not insights. The environment of ChatGPT, for example, is so broad. They trained it on Wikipedia. Okay, they trained it on research papers. It's so broad that it includes things and is not guaranteeing to give you a good answer. And you can see that in disclosures up front. It tells you, hey, look, you're going to get a good sounding answer, but you might not get the right answer. But then again, if you want to be more productive, if you want to get better results, and I'll tell you about some of the tests that I've done, artificial intelligence can help you if you know how to use it the right way. If you ask well-framed questions that are suitable for a machine learning environment. Now, I have a whole bunch of articles I put together, and if you visit my website at www.insidestrategicrelations.com, go to the contact page and ask about artificial intelligence and how it can help you be more productive. We can talk about those details. But I essentially ask the system, artificial intelligence, about itself, about what it can and cannot do, about how to ask the right questions for the environment. Now, I've also written, long before I had access to AI, I've also written a book on how to get answers from the internet and how to ask good questions. Those critical thinking topics that we talk about. So I go into the platform and I'm asking it questions that I know the answer to. Now, so I use a third-party source, I use a research paper, I ask questions I know the answer to, and I'll tell you right up front, no matter what AI system I'm using, it doesn't always give you a good answer. It gives you a good sounding answer. It gives you an answer that triggers that cognitive belief, because remember, these companies want to sell this product in the future. It doesn't give you a really good answer. So the good questions you're going to ask AI are going to be fact-based questions, okay? High-level fact-based questions. Like, what's the capital of so-and-so? Draft me a simple letter to introduce A to B. And it does a very good job because it's going to write what is pleasing for a human to hear. So I got into the platforms and I asked the platforms to pitch me. First, I confirmed that it knew what direct response marketing was, that it knew about different individuals in the marketing space. And I asked it to write a sales letter, write a lead generation piece, pitch me on using artificial intelligence. Now, for the reason that I have, I'm saying that you could use it to be more productive, not the reasons necessarily it told me, because it gave me a long-winded professor answer rather than anything succinct that's actually actionable. Because again, if it gives you something to do and you do it and it doesn't work, then it's liable because it's a machine that's giving you advice. So if you want to be more productive as a knowledge worker, as an executive, as a director, I do say that artificial intelligence will help you if you have 4 conditions. Number 1, we just talked about it, asking well-framed questions that are questions that AI can answer. So if you have a specialized data set, that's great. You train the data set, it's more likely to be able to ask industry-specific questions. But if you haven't trained the data set, it's not going to be specific. It'll give you an answer. See, the AI machines always give you answers. It doesn't mean the answer is correct. So number 2, you want to have somebody who's a subject matter expert or somebody who has high critical thinking skills who can vet the answer, not necessarily the person who asked the question. Because sometimes you may have to ask the question in different ways. Sometimes you've triggered bias and you don't believe that the expert's correct anymore because this powerful machine has sussed up the number 49. Anyway, so here we go. Next thing is you want to have somebody who's a subject matter expert that can verify the information. Number 3 is you want to be doing $10,000 an hour activities. Now you might be saying, I'm not getting paid $10,000 an hour. Well, if you were doing the activities that were worth $10,000 an hour, then you would have a higher probability of moving from where you are closer to $10,000 an hour. Does that make sense? If you can make $10,000 an hour for the company you work for, you're more likely to get a raise and move up. If you're a lawyer, a doctor, or some kind of professional, you gain certain subject matter expertise, and you are now in a business of your own. There are lawyers, accountants, investors, executives who make $1,000, $10,000 an hour. So again, if you're going to use these artificial intelligence tools, don't be messing around having it write stories for you about different things. Don't have it writing jokes. That doesn't prove anything. So all these people are talking about how the GPT platform is there's too many people on it and they're limiting services. And sometimes it happens with Google Lambda as well. But ultimately, I haven't been banned from any of these things because I've done real tests. Real tests. I want to know whether this platform works or not because I'm not looking for entertainment. I'm looking for ways to help my clients transform business relationships into profits, to produce outstanding results, to unlock hidden potential in their business, and by identifying and focusing on high impact, high value work that can drive significant growth and success. Don't take my word for it. That's what GPT told me. Now, this whole audio here is not ChatGPT, but I want to point out that this stuff is extremely powerful. It works, but you need to focus on what works well. And then the last part, it doesn't matter what kind of good answers you get from an AI platform if you're not using those answers to serve a client. Remember, the business relationships are the most powerful thing. Your customers, the people you serve, is the most important part of this. Now, how did I test ChatGPT to make sure I was going to get maximum value? Well, first off, I asked questions that had high utility value. So I've just shared with you the 4 things you can do. You can listen to this program again, take the notes. But now I'm going to share with you how I know that these AI platforms will work for you. So I asked it questions that I already knew the answer to, sometimes pretty complex questions. And it gave me reasonable answers. It didn't always give me the right answer, but again, it gave me reasonable answers. I used the platform to drill down into scenarios to test its level of understanding. So I took a list of authors and I said, tell me about these authors. Now, I can't tell me specific things about these authors, but it told me that, for privacy reasons, it can't do such and such. But reframing the question, I asked, what do these authors have in common? And it was able to tell me that these were direct response writers and told me a little bit about the group in general. I drilled down even further and I asked it about what is direct response? How does it compare to this other thing? I essentially walked through common questions that I either already knew the answer to or I could readily validate the answer. So I did ask some questions where I didn't know the answer at all. And then I went out to verify it. Guess what I found out there? So I asked a question that should have been readily available in like a medical journal. It gave me an okay answer. And then I asked it to quote its sources, to reference its sources, and by DOI address. So having something reference its sources doesn't tell you anything because it came back without like specific titles. It didn't list like a APA formatted works cited. In fact, it had trouble telling me where it got the answer from because that's not how AI works. AI is going to synthesize a response and then produce it for you to use or judge. And asking medical questions that should have been available in a medical journal would have been clean because it could have told me that it got the information from a medical journal, 1 or 2 sources. But I asked what research supported the claims, which should also be in the bottom of the medical journal, usually in a page that describes this stuff, will have its sources, by DOI number, which DOI is something I can look up on Google Scholar or someplace else. And it came back with DOIs that don't exist. So what it said was its source, and the URL reference to that source, because it can't give you just straight URLs to web addresses to stuff, but the DOI number is like a serial number. And so you could use that serial number to find the web address to find the original report. Long story short, the sources didn't match. Again, we're not using this. We're not using this as an affirmative final answer. If you ask a simple question, you get a simple answer, but you can't make any money off of simple questions. So when you know how to use these platforms, you can ask the complex questions. In fact, you can get more done with less effort, streamlining your workflow and eliminating low-value tasks. You hear what I'm saying? I'm reading this off of the sheet every so often. So what I have is my iPad in front of me, and I have the little comments that came back. These responses are very good. Now, they're written very complex. So I asked it, write 10 sales hooks for consultants who offer businesses ways to find $10,000 an hour work. And it came back with a hook: gain a competitive advantage by focusing on the work that sets your business apart and differentiates you in the marketplace. Now, that's a good answer in general. And if I was going to do a little exercise here, it's a little long-winded. It needs to be broken down. It needs to be simplified, easier to understand. So gain a competitive advantage by focusing on work that sets your business apart, period. The activities that differentiate you in the marketplace, period. And then a call to action. See, it's written, and it's something I noticed earlier and I've talked about, is it's written in a pattern. Because if you didn't know, Google search engines can tell if text was written by AI. People that have done their resumes with AI have been denied jobs because they had no personality in their materials. You do have to add personality. But my final point here is that artificial intelligence is going to give you massive leverage. I'm not reading this off anything. I'm actually going to kind of have to sneeze. But the reason why is because usually if I had somebody overseas research this information for me, if I had an author provide me an article about this, I wouldn't be able to do it as fast as I can get AI to do it. Because I only spent 20 minutes putting together essentially a whole big old report on how to use AI to improve your day-to-day productivity. What are the benefits of that? What kinds of people would use this and benefit from this? I'm not offering to give that to you because I want to rewrite it. It's not written well. It is okay information. It's the same quality information that I would get from a subordinate or a cub copywriter or a researcher, but I got it in 20 minutes. Imagine how much time you're going to be able to save, how many more connections you're going to be able to make, how much more face-to-face interaction you can produce in order to build trust and credibility in your marketplace. AI is a game changer in these areas if you know how to use it. I gave you the 4 key factors in using AI the right way. If you're ready to talk with somebody and you want to get specific questions, let me know. Visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com. But seriously, in 20 minutes, I just outsourced what usually take like maybe 20 hours of research. So if I hire a researcher to go out and look up things, find me papers and stuff, they would go out and do it, and they'd have this almost the same error rate as ChatGPT. Now, they might write a little simpler and make it easier to understand and be able to relate to people better, but I can do that after I've gotten the materials together so quickly. Now, I can teach you exactly how to do this, how to find high value work in what you do today. And I don't need to look at the sheet for this because this is what I've been doing for years. This stuff isn't going to put me out of business because I know how to adapt. But thousands and thousands of consultants and specialists and operational people are going by the wayside. If you want to upgrade your position in your business as an independent professional, as a knowledge worker, as a director, as an executive, then artificial intelligence will help you get there. Now, I have not yet found a tool that does this consistently. So what my focus is how does I, the operator, use the and I'll give you a tip right now. If you know anything about user stories, it functions a lot better with user stories than it does questions. But my point being is I know how to adapt. I'm not concerned about artificial intelligence. But I also know how the human brain works. And if you start using AI the wrong way, you're going to become reliant on the platform. And then whoever's selling you the AI has got you by the balls. And you're going to be paying as much for a virtual assistant, maybe 20 times as much for an AI virtual assistant because these background platforms are going to be doing all the work, which of course opens you up to bias. It opens you up to getting wrong answers and not knowing they're wrong, kind of a false expert economy. Folks, if you got questions about AI and you're a senior level executive in an organization, you're a director, you're making 6 figures or better, you got the executive level incomes, I can walk you through this approach that's going to make you more powerful, but make it easier for you to use AI to serve your needs. It'll produce a really good rough draft of almost anything. Now, again, it all sounds really good, but when you start digging into it, you realize it's as good as what you're getting from your current staff, but it's definitely not worse. And ultimately, it just takes a fraction of the time. Now, the real gift is to train the AI on specialized data sets, because the software does this, and I can work with subcontractors and stuff, but there are some tools that will let you scan your own data sets and then get you more accurate responses. But again, folks, this is a game changer. I'm not usually hyped up about stuff. In another newsletter, I did talk about how AI is going to probably be the next bubble, but ultimately, use it while it's there. Don't go out there to get your ChatGPT account and start asking it to write poems and tell you stories. You got to get in there and make it work for your results. And I can teach you how to do that. I can show you how to ask great questions. I can show you how to find areas in your business where you can get higher leverage, higher value, faster automation, stay within laws, rules, and regulations. I do have a risk management background, and ultimately get success with these insights. And while I know what we're seeing in public is not as good as what's behind the scenes, but again, if someone comes out with this stuff and is using it and you're not, you will be at a significant disadvantage. So I'm giving preference to knowledge workers, specialists, subject matter experts, individuals who are in the business of knowledge, lawyers, accountants, advisors, high-level consultants. I'll be happy to work with you, but first you can ask your questions at www.insidestrategicrelations.com. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations, and we're here to help you transform business relationships into profits guaranteed. And there's some new tools on the block that are going to make your life so much more exciting, so much more interesting. I'll see you in the next episode.